So I found this tweet by President Trump pretty interesting, basically saying that the timing of his impeachment was meant to hurt Bernie Sanders' chance of becoming the Democratic nominee. So here's a little video by The Hill discussing this tweet by
President
Trump.
Trump on Friday accused Democrats of deliberately diminishing Senator Bernie Sanders' chance of winning the party's presidential nomination by keeping him off the campaign trail to serve as a juror in the Senate impeachment trial. The president, in a pair of tweets, sought to exploit potential frustration among Democrats by echoing a theory among some lawmakers that Speaker Nancy Pelosi was aiding the 2020 candidacy of former Vice President Joe Biden by timing impeachment votes to keep Sanders and other candidates in Washington as the Iowa caucuses approach. Quote, "They are rigging the election against Bernie Sanders just..."
So I don't, excuse me, I don't know if for sure that the Nancy Pelosi's timing of, sending the impeachment articles to the Senate for the Senate trial was, a direct attempt to, subdue the efforts of Bernie Sanders to win the Democratic nomination. But that's also not to say that wasn't part of the reasoning or maybe floating around in the back of her mind when she was weighing when to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate. I just think it's definitely not outside the realm of possibility that wanting to hurt Bernie Sanders' chances in these early states like Iowa and New Hampshire, wanting to hurt him in some of these states, I think probably played at least, a small part in Pelosi's rationale for sending them right now. I mean, there's so many things that he could have been impeached on, like the, emoluments clause, basically using the presidency to enrich him personally, the war crimes that, he and the U.S. government are now complicit in with their weapons contracts and their cooperation with the Saudi regime and their Yemen they're committing in, or the genocide they're committing against the Yemenis or the people in Yemen, the stuff with the border wall, misappropriating those funds, family separation policy, all of these other things he could have been impeached on, but it was when he went after Joe Biden, a powerful former vice president of the United States, former senator, when he went after, this very powerful elite person and their family, that's when, we got to really stick it to Trump then. We can't have him going after our cronies. So I definitely, like I said, think it's within the realm of possibility that Nancy Pelosi did want to hurt Bernie Sanders' chances of becoming president by having these impeachment trial 2.5 weeks or whatever it is before this very important Iowa caucus. As Trump points out, it is very important, unfortunately, because it's not super representative of the broader United States, especially with its racial makeup. It's very, very white, to my understanding. Let's see. Crazy Nancy thereby gives the strong edge to sleepy Joe Biden, and Bernie is shut out again, he continued. Because actually, back during the 2016 kind of Democratic primary process, Trump was actually talking about the shady stuff going on then, with regards to the DNC, and then cooperating with the Clinton campaign, and how the Clinton campaign was being fed what questions are going to be asked before the debates, and all of these other things. So Trump was talking about that stuff back in 2016, either right before he became president, I was also running as a candidate, or maybe after, or maybe both. And then, so some people would say that Trump is just, making these claims right now, trying to divide the Democratic Party, that could be part of the reasoning, and part of it is Trump just likes to talk shit and ruffle people's feathers, especially people like Nancy Pelosi, who basically are so just elitist, corporatist, protectors of the status quo and neoliberal ideologies and policies that, like I said, it took Donald Trump going after, or supposedly going after, Joe Biden and Joe Biden's family, trying to get some dirt, on the Burisma stuff and why Hunter Biden got that job with Burisma, even though he had no expertise in that field whatsoever, but was getting paid, it was like close to, I think, $80,000 a month. Um, so they're willing to impeach Donald Trump over that, holding up the aid to Ukraine to get this dirt on Hunter, on Joe Biden and his family, which was illegal. But again, it took him going after another one of the elite, another one of the oligarchic class, for him to be impeached. He wasn't impeached over misappropriating the funds for the border wall, his family separation policy, all of the kids that have been dying in border patrol custody, the emoluments clause, how he's been personally enriching himself through the presidency. Things like when Mike Pence was visiting, it was either Scotland or Ireland, I believe. He was staying at a Trump resort hotel that was completely on the opposite side of the country where he had his official business in. So there's one, clear example of how Trump was enriching himself through, being the president in, pretty obvious and corrupt way. We could also talk about Saudi Arabia and how the Trump administration has been aiding and abetting and is complicit in the Saudi-led genocide in Yemen. And there's a laundry list of other things he could have been charged on that would have had a lot more substance and staying power than this whole Ukraine gate thing. And so that's, again, Nancy Pelosi in a nutshell. It took to get to that point for her to want to, use the political capital to impeach Trump, and they went about it and used this really benign thing that was going to get real no, traction to a large extent, I should say. Let's see. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, our California, and other lawmakers have suggested that Pelosi is hindering senators running for president by withholding impeachment articles from the Senate until earlier this week during a critical stretch before the Iowa caucuses and New Hampshire primary. And because, again, I mean, there could be some truth to what McCarthy is saying there. Just because he is a, House Republican doesn't mean he might not say a few things that make sense every once in a while. The timing of it is pretty suspect, especially given what supposedly Pelosi was holding back, sending these articles of impeachment to the Senate in order to get some concessions from, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell about how this Senate trial would look, what the process would like. Would they be able to call witnesses? How many party managers would the Democrats need? This type of thing. And, to a large extent, I don't believe Nancy Pelosi actually got any type of concessions from Mitch McConnell or any type of Republican senators, except, maybe a few Republicans have said they would be open to maybe voting to hear witnesses, something like that. But why not hold on to these impeachment articles longer? Why not let this pressure keep building against Trump? We keep getting, more and more evidence, it seems like, from people like Lev, Parnas. Whether it's super credible or not, that's a different story. But why, again, just because a Republican congressperson's making this point doesn't mean it's, necessarily invalid, just completely as a result of them being a House Republican. But yeah, why not hold on to these articles of impeachment longer, Nancy Pelosi, if you're holding on to them to get these concessions about what the Senate impeachment trial would look like, how many witnesses, if any, would the Democrats be able to call? Because I don't think Pelosi didn't get any of those things, so why send them now? Again, it takes both Bernie Sanders, excuse me, and Elizabeth Warren, the two most, progressive candidates who have any chance of winning. But basically, right now, the race is between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. And this, as Trump rightly pointed out, it definitely benefits sleepy Joe Biden, because he's, going to be able to go to around Iowa and New Hampshire on his malarkey bus, spreading his, very neoliberal style of, malarkey. And Bernie Sanders will be stuck in this Senate impeachment trial, having to hear about this Ukraine gate stuff while he could be out there, spreading the good message of this progressive left populist message, and talking about why we really need to fight for things like Medicare for all, Green New Deal, free college, canceling student loan debt, canceling medical debt, legalizing marijuana, ending the wars, adopting, racial justice in the schools, ending the school to prison pipeline, ending, all these super horrible things and implementing these really positive things that we need, like Medicare for all and a Green New Deal. So, what do you think? Is there some truth to what Donald Trump said is in his reference to, Pelosi sending the articles of impeachment right now because she wanted to hurt Bernie Sanders' chance of winning the Democratic nomination? And again, Nancy Pelosi is a very neoliberal, centrist Democrat. She doesn't support things like a Green New Deal, free college, Medicare for all. She, could have very easily impeached George W. Bush for the war crimes and the lies that she knew were happening then. She didn't. She's just a status quo defender. And, she very, very well could be trying to prop up sleepy Joe Biden for the nomination. I think it's at least within the realm of possibility. I'm not saying that was her whole rationale for releasing the articles of impeachment to the Senate at right now at this time. But why else? I mean, why else would she do it? It is going to take Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren off the campaign trail, along with Michael Benn. Obviously, that doesn't even matter. I didn't even know he was running. He shouldn't be. He's another neoliberal, status quo, centrist, apologizer type. So it takes the two most progressive candidates, out of off the campaign trail, I should say, during this super important time, especially for Bernie Sanders and all of the momentum he is gaining. I pretty much think that, Elizabeth Warren and her campaign know that she's basically out of, contending for the nomination at this point, especially after the character assassination that, her and her campaign, leveled in this very overt way against, Bernie Sanders. So it's definitely going to hurt both of them. I think it could hurt Bernie Sanders more just because he has the most to lose, especially with all of his recent momentum. And again, why would Pelosi send the articles to the Senate right now if she didn't get any of those concessions she wanted from the Republicans, which is supposedly her rationale for not sending them in the first place? And, I definitely like the point that Kyle Kulinski, aka Secular Talk, makes when he talks about, the best strategy for Pelosi at this point would have just been to hold on to the articles of impeachment forever, just sit on them basically, and not send them at all. So they're always kind of looming over Trump's head. He's always having to talk about that and deflect away from that, and not able to really accomplish the other things, the horrible things, that he would try to get through, in executive orders and things he would try to get passed and then sign into law, stuff like that. So I think that would have been the correct, probably the best way to go about it. And, it doesn't really make sense, especially at this point, to send them right now. So I do think there was at least some, sketchy logic for Nancy Pelosi, or some sketchy reasoning for her releasing the articles of impeachment to the Senate right now. Just the timing of it, and her record as a status quo defender and proper upper of. I think there's just too many signs to say that there was some shadiness going on with that. But I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment sections down below. Peace and much love.